From the dolphin calling out an SOS to the koala crying, today we're going to take you through the times that animals have asked humans for help. Cows are farm animals known to be very docile and without any sense of adventure. Except that the heroine of our story is a cow who got tired of her daily routine and wanted to find out what it felt like to change her grazing and milking routine. She then moved away from the pasture to discover the nearby woods. In her quest for adventure and new sensations, she began to graze on all the grass that was in her path. Fascinated by the wilderness and the succulent treasures hidden in the undergrowth, she can't be reasoned with. She takes more and more risks and goes headlong until she gets stuck between two trunks of the same tree. The only thing left to do is to moo with all his strength to ask for help. Fortunately, firemen and members of the RSPCA, the equivalent of the SPA in Great Britain, came to his rescue. The task was hard and tiring, especially since they had to get rid of a bull that was targeting them at the same time. After several maneuvers and a lot of effort from her animal lovers, our adventurous cow is safe and sound. Let's hope that she has learned her lesson and that she will no longer improvise herself as Mr. Segan's goat. When we think of leopards, the image that comes to mind is that of a magnificent, fast-predicting feline living in the savannas. Except that urban sprawl in many parts of the world has encroached on the natural habitat of a very large number of wild species. This is the case in India, where leopards, losing their territories and natural resources, find themselves hunting among humans in the villages. And so it was that an unfortunate thirsty leopard went to the province of the Indian city of Rajsamand. After probably having walked in vain for several kilometers in search of a natural water source. Once arrived at the urbanized area, he found himself nose to nose, or rather, snout to snout, with a kind of metal pan filled with water. Without further ado, he slipped his mouth in, glup, glup, and in a few minutes, he finished the content. Except that the unfortunate man had to think of the way out, before putting his mouth in this pot or pan with a very wide base but a very narrow end. Indeed, now he finds himself with his head stuck inside. After several hours of fright and confusion in full view of the villagers, the forestry officials were on the spot. They took a few more hours to tranquilize him in order to tie him up and finally saw off the metal pot. Once freed, the poor beast was driven and released into the jungle. In a beautiful green and dense forest, two hiking friends are walking to enjoy the incredible landscape. They came across a cute baby squirrel caught in a plastic net and struggling to escape. This atrocious scene makes the hearts of the two Russian nature lovers break. Their only wish is to save this beautiful little animal. Without further ado, one of the two men began to unravel the ball of plastic thread that enveloped the baby squirrel while the other was filming it. But unfortunately the threads were so tangled up that he couldn't manage. He then decides to take the little beast in agony to his home, to finally succeed in cutting the net with a pair of scissors and save the adorable baby squirrel, who will have the right to a feast of raisins, peanuts and almonds, and a beautiful little house where he will spend the time necessary for his convalescence before finding his freedom. Although our Russian heroes were not able to enjoy the relaxing day they were out in the forest, they were able to enjoy the feeling of satisfaction that comes from saving a life, as well as the recognition of the whole world for their heroic act, thanks to the video that filmed their incredible journey and that had several million views on the internet. Let's hope that the person who threw that net into the forest watched the video and realized the impact that their action could have had on an innocent animal. The dolphin is a marine creature with great intelligence. This mammal of the oceans is able to communicate thanks to its whistles and its clicks, which characterize it. But did you know that it was also capable of sending out distress signals? I'm sure you'll want to know more. To do so, he headed to England, and more precisely to a construction site on the banks of the Helford River in Cornwall, where Leon de Sola Pinto, a 33-year-old construction company owner, heard the SOS of a dolphin stranded on the shore. Without hesitation, the young entrepreneur called the British Divers Marine Life Rescue, and then rushed into the water to free the animal from the mud and push it into slightly deeper water. Unable to free himself from the estuary, Leon stayed in the water for more than 3 hours trying to calm the distressed dolphin, whom he named Oscar, until help arrived. Once the BDMLR volunteers were on site, they wrapped the dolphin in a tarp and took it to a ship in the ocean. Now you know that dolphins can whistle for help in times of need. Even if you had to see the very sad beginning of the video of this dolphin begging for help from those who want to hear it. Fortunately, the video in question ends with the touching scene of this incredibly compassionate man who helps save this 2 meters mammal. Jane Goodall is a British scientist specializing in chimpanzee behavior. She is also a fervent defender of the rights of these exceptional primates. This is why she created the JGI or Jane Goodall Institute, an organization that works to preserve chimpanzees and their natural habitat. And it is within this framework that Jane Goodall struggled to save the wounded chimpanzee several years ago. She and her team have found themselves leading a merciless fight against the illegal trafficking of great apes, which is wreaking havoc on primate populations in Africa. However, it has been able to set up several rehabilitation and care centers, such as the Chimpunga Center in the Republic of Congo. This center welcomed the chimpanzee Wunda, who was very ill, and saved him from certain death. Of course, it took several years of care and rehabilitation by the center's experts before Wunda was released back into the wild. But his release was an emotional moment as he gave Jane Goodall a hug to show his love and appreciation for her efforts to save his life before he vanished into the wild. Nothing is more distressing than the situation of stray dogs in winter. These poor animals without a shelter to keep them warm during the freezing nights often risk death. This is exactly what happened in Serbia during a snowy day, during which a poor mother dog found herself outside without any resources, with her little puppies facing the harsh winter weather of the Balkans. The poor animal was especially afraid for her offspring, and her only wish was to be able to find them a shelter, so she put them in a drain pipe, waiting to find a better solution. Until she observed some passers-by in the distance, she quickly ran to them. She then indicated to them the place where she had hidden her puppies and asked them, barking very tenderly and wagging her tail, to help them. They did not hesitate to call the dog rescue shelter, the largest animal shelter in Serbia. Very quickly, 2 rescuers arrived on the scene and took the mother and her puppies to the shelter. The brave mother dog had to put all her fears and distrust of strangers aside to keep her children safe. Fortunately, her efforts were not in vain and allowed her and her family to live happily, well-fed and warmly in the shelter. In the spring of 2019, a family of cyclists is riding their bikes in the quiet town of North Charleston in the state of South Carolina, USA, when they hear distress barking emerge from under a pile of rocks. They approach the source of the barking only to discover that a dog was trapped under the pile of rocks. They tried to free the poor animal, but could not reach it, so they called for help. Veteran firefighter Paul Bryant quickly came to the rescue of the frightened dog, immediately knelt down in front of the rock pile and tried to pull the puppy out, whispering, "You can do it. You can do it." A few minutes later, the nice doggy is in the arms of the brave Paul Bryant, who immediately checks if he is not injured, to give him to the family of the cyclist, amazed by the intervention of this exceptional fireman. He was then taken to the Charleston Animal Society, where he was offered for adoption. A few days later, firefighter Paul Bryant learned that no one had claimed the puppy, so he decided to save him again by adopting him and naming him Rocky. This is how Rocky was saved twice by the same firefighter. March 30, 2019 was a trying day for family members who were planning to enjoy the sunshine on their bikes, but it still allowed them, through an incredible combination of circumstances, to save a puppy's life and find him a caring owner. Chance often has a hand in things. It's a normal day for a koala in the forest of Port Macquarie in Australia. He wants nothing more than to rest peacefully on the branches of a eucalyptus tree after having eaten its leaves. Everything goes as planned, until the fire spreads to the forest and pushes the little beast to climb to the top of his tree. The flames get closer and closer to the little Australian sloth, who ends up with several burns and scabs all over his body. With no way out, the poor animal started crying, as if asking for help. Fortunately, a motorist named Tony Doherty braved the flames and came to the rescue. She removes her shirt and wraps the koala in it, then she gives it a drink and washes its body with water, to then take it to the Port Macquarie Koala Hospital, which helps to rescue koalas injured in the forest fires which ravage Australia. Unfortunately, the koala's health, now named Ellenborough Lewis after Doherty's grandson, deteriorated, prompting the hospital to euthanize him to spare him further suffering. The death of little Lewis was not in vain, however, as the video of his rescue prompted more than 7,000 people to donate to the hospital, raising more than $1,600,000 Australian dollars, the equivalent of €1 million. Now here's a group of divers exploring the depths off the coast of Florida, when a shark starts pushing one of the divers to ask him to remove a hook embedded in his belly. The shark overcomes its predatory instinct and looks harmless, prompting one of the divers to come to its aid and remove the huge hook that is causing it so much pain, while another member of the dive group films this incredible scene. To thank his brave rescuer, the shark comes to rub and swim beside his hero. A show so touching that one would forget the deadly aspect of these ocean predators. Gracia is a beautiful Costa Rican toucan, which like all the members of its species is characterized by its large beak with bright colors. Beak that he lost with sticks, inflicted by a band of cruel and unconscious teenagers. After her attack, Gracia was taken to Zoo Avenue, an animal shelter in the city of San Jose. Unfortunately, the exotic bird could not feed or sing, so caretakers took the initiative to launch an appeal for donations, which helped raise the necessary funds to make a custom 3D printer beak for the mutilated bird. After a year of adaptation and convalescence, Gracia returned to a normal life. However, Gracia's aggression sparked outrage throughout Costa Rica, which gave life to a law sentencing anyone who shows cruelty to animals to prison. These were the times when animals asked humans for help. Which of these poor animals broke your heart the most? And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive all the notifications and not miss anything of our next contents.